גדול הבעל הקטנה, בוא נגיד ככה, ולא כלום. כי מה זה קטנה לצורך העניין הזה? פחות מבת 3. הבתולים שלה חוזרים מאליהם. לכן גדול הבעל הקטנה זה לא כלום, זה לא נחשב לביאה. ופחות מכאן, פחות מגיל 3, כנותן אצבע בעין דמי. כמו שאמרנו, אתה נותן אצבע בעין, זולגת דמעה. אבל אחרי זה העין מתבהרת, ודמעה אחרת מחליפה אותה. אותו דבר עם הבתולים של פחות מבת 3.
I think the Epstein disaster has only just begun. I don't think it's nearing an end. I think it's going to metastasize and get much worse. Because remember that whatever they find in the Epstein files, and I don't know what's in those things, and I'm glad I don't have to look at it, but I'm told that a lot of it involves children. And that's absolutely reprehensible. That is an evil on a scale that we can't even begin to comprehend. So I think that while this current approach is probably justified, how it will unfold is anybody's guess, but I don't see a former president going to jail. At the same time, I think people are still very upset about the Epstein files. And I hope that President Trump is not a major figure or a major player and is not implicated in anything that's happened there. I wrote a piece in the American Conservative about it that people may want to look at. It's called Versailles on the Potomac. And I was trying to get people to understand that, and this is difficult for the Washington political class because they think of themselves as invulnerable, invincible, and remote from the population, that they can effectively do whatever they like. Well, that was the problem for the ruling class in France in the lead up to the French Revolution in 1789. And one of the things that really brought down the old regime and led to, the lawlessness and the chaos and the mass murder was the public's utter and complete disgust with the lack of any moral turpitude in the ruling class. We need to, and people in Washington need to understand, even though they don't care and they're not interested, most Americans pay tribute to virtue. They honor virtue and they condemn vice. People in Washington are overwhelmingly corrupt and are engaged in all sorts of vice. It's not a question of who as much as it is who isn't, So I think people are underestimating the impact of this Epstein business because there's already a deteriorating faith, not just in President Trump and his failure to do a lot of things in the way that people had hoped, but in the whole system. Democracy itself is on trial in a big way because people are tired of going to the voting booth, discovering that it didn't make much difference who they voted for. They got the same outcome. And that's certainly very true in many respects with President Trump. Now, that's not to say he hasn't tried or whatever, but, the president has never come before the American people and said, this is my strategy. These are the critical things that I want to achieve. And this is how I plan to do it. He's never done it. And the people he's appointed, their preeminent concern is Israel. And they'll tell you, if you ask them, that's ridiculous. Nobody voted for that. So I think all of these problems are coming together. So whatever was done under Obama should be explored, investigated, and if necessary, prosecuted. But I don't think we should shy away from understanding that the Epstein scandal is another greater and even more disturbing event in its own right that we have to address. And I hope President Trump will address it, but it may be too difficult for him. I don't know.